Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. I'm Macy Renee, and I am so thrilled to have you joining me this morning, this evening, wherever you're listening from in the world. Thank you so much for being here. Really quickly, I'm so excited. I have so many amazing things up my sleeve, but something new coming in 2023 that has truthfully been breaking my brain. My brain has never worked so freaking hard to figure things out. And I literally feel like I've just been a ball of tangled yarn trying to piece all of these things together. But it's coming and I'm excited. So here's what I will say. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be if you want to be in the loop for what is coming in 2023. That's all I'm going to say. Make sure you're on my email list. And if you're on my email list, make sure you open your emails if you want to stay in the loop. I'm super excited. I've been listening to all of my clients very, very closely for probably the last year and a half, taking into account all of the things that are helping them, things that they think would help them, things that I can do better, things that would be a lot of fun. I've been, racking my brain with things that helped me whenever I was in their position. And basically my brain is figuring out a way to pull it all together in a beautiful bow and present it in 2023. And I'm so excited about it. Nervous and so excited. So anyways, get on the email list so you don't miss a thing. Second, I am going home really soon, so I have recorded several podcast episodes for you that will come out over the next several weeks so that you don't miss anything while I am basically going offline and being super present with my family for Christmas. I'm so excited. I'm excited and also kind of not excited just because I don't know where you all live, but in Kentucky right now, everybody is sick with everything. It literally, every single person it feels like on my Facebook that is from Kentucky has been sick with something for the last month and a half, 2 months. And I am just a little anxious about being around people, but I'm going to soldier up. I've been juicing and taking all my supplements, and we're just going to pray and try and be present. That's what's going to happen here. Okay, so I think that I have an episode that a lot of you guys are probably going to love. And honestly, I'm very shocked that I have not recorded this sooner, but better late than never. And I think that if you listen to this and you know someone in your life that needs it, pass it along with them. Because honestly, this is probably one of the top things I coach on. If there was a top 5 list, what we are about to coach on today is in the top 5, and that is improving your self-worth. Okay, so here's what I want to say about this, because it's very likely that while I'm recording this, the words I use may be interchangeable because there are a lot of different ways to talk about self-worth. So I hear people use language like, I don't know if I'm worthy, I don't feel worthy, I need to improve my self-worth, and that's great. In the coaching industry, a lot of times we say self-concept. Okay, so if you hear me say at any point self-concept, I'm still talking about self-worth. And also, if you hear me say self-regard, I'm still talking about your self-worth, okay? Because in the emotional intelligence kind of scientific industry of studies and all of that, and in the assessment that I give to every single one of my clients in the Equip Society in one-on-one coaching, they get to see what their emotional intelligence actually is. And in that assessment, self-worth is referred to as self-regard. So for any of my clients, you have been able to take you've been able to take the, oh my gosh, why can't I think of it? Emotional intelligence assessment, okay, in the last year, because I got certified in that. So that's a must do. As soon as clients sign up to work with me, they get to do that. And it gives them a 20-page breakdown of what their EQ, aka their emotional intelligence, is at this time. For any of my clients listening to this, if you go to your page number 3, and look at the breakdown of everything, and you look up self-regard, that will tell you where you currently are score-wise in your self-worth. And remember that the average is 100, and so you can kind of see how you're measuring up against, when studies were done against 4,000 people. You can kind of see where you're measuring up. Are you falling above average? Are you falling below average? And don't beat yourself up for what you're scoring, because there's a reason, and we can talk about it on your next coaching call. Okay. So if this episode sparks anything in you that you want to talk about, we'll pull up your EQ assessment and we'll talk about it. Okay. But here's what I want to tell everybody else who is not a client of mine, who doesn't have an EQ assessment, who doesn't know their emotional intelligence score. Here is what I want you to know about self-worth, self-concept, self-regard, okay? It's really important to know that your self-worth is merely what you think and you believe about yourself. It is all of the thoughts that you have collected over time and what you think about those thoughts. And those thoughts are all encompassing of how you view yourself and what you believe makes someone or something quote unquote worthy. Okay. So if we were to compartmentalize this into boxes, you would have a box containing everything that you think and believe about yourself and how you feel about yourself. And you would have a box around what worthiness looks like, what it means, okay, what qualifications you think that you need to have in order to get into that box. And we kind of put worthiness boxes on a pedestal, okay? Like metaphorically, I guess, or visually, it would be like, the trophy sitting on this very tall table that we feel we can never reach. Okay. And the funny thing about this, and, ironic kind of thing about this, is that trophy is just whatever you've made it to be, whatever you believe makes someone or something worthy. Okay. So what is crazy about this is that I could line up 25 people and I could ask them if they feel worthy, okay? And they may all have a different answer. And whether it's yes or no, if I ask them, well, what would it take for you to be worthy? I could get 20 to 25 different answers. I could get 100 different answers if I lined up 100 people. Okay, because we all have our own definition of what it means to be worthy. So I'm going to emphasize this again. Whatever your self-worth, your self-concept, your self-regard, that definition, okay, is ultimately made up of how you think of yourself. It's what you think is or isn't possible for you. Now, here's the thing. It's very possible that someone or multiple people throughout your life, maybe even in childhood, said things to you that made you feel less than, okay? Said things to you that should have never been said. And it's very possible that there was trauma created, there were negative beliefs about yourself created, right? If you were bullied, if you were talked down to, if you were reprimanded for whatever it was that you did and someone didn't like it, if you were restricted from love because you didn't behave in a way that someone else could accept, right? Or someone withdrew their love because they wanted you to be a certain way and you were not able to meet that, it's very possible that your brain formed a ton of beliefs around worthiness. Okay, and what this could look like is, in order to be worthy to receive my parents' love and attention, these are just examples, and they're things that I see very commonly. It's like, in order to be worthy of my mom and dad's attention, I had to get straight A's or A's and B's. If I got anything less than that, I was shunned. I was, talked down to. I see this a lot with sibling relationships too. Like, sometimes my clients were the A student and they were kind of like the person that did everything right, and maybe even a people pleaser because they were avoiding the negative emotions that their parents or caregivers might have if they messed up. They were also avoiding their own negative emotions if they messed up, right? And the repercussions of messing up. Okay, but then there's also the clients I coach that were the sibling that didn't get the best grades and wasn't the best student. And, they were treated differently, or they were called out for not being more like their other sibling, for being the difficult child, why did I say it like that? For being the difficult child, for being different, for being more rambunctious or stubborn or not as intelligent, right? And for whatever reason, it's very possible that a lot of your beliefs around worthiness are wrapped up in the way that you were raised, the things that happened throughout your life, and especially during those impressionable years, especially like birth to age 7. So for anybody new here, I will say that my podcast tends to make a ton more sense if you go back and listen from the very beginning, because my episodes do kind of build upon each other. However, it's not a problem if you listen to whatever you're interested in sporadically. That's fine. But I will tell you that you will really have things click for you if you go back to episode 1 and try your best to catch up. I have a lot of people do that. I'm always so impressed with how fast people do it. But I know, like, on podcasts too, side note, I'm going down a rabbit hole. You can speed up the, you can speed it up for listening. If I already get told I talk too fast, so I apologize if speeding it up makes me sound like a little squeaky robot. But that is possible if you're wanting to catch up from episode 1. Anyways, in earlier episodes, I talked about how from birth to age 7, that's when you're like a sponge. Your brain is like a sponge. So everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that happens to you in those first 7 years of life, the behavior that is modeled to you, the things that you see your parents say and do, the way that they treat each other, the way that they treat you, your relationships, all of that is like a sponge within your brain, okay? And so whatever happens, you don't question any of it. It's just seen as fact. It gets stored in your memory bank in your subconscious as fact, okay? When you become around 8 to 12, that's when you really start questioning life. Your brain kind of has this switch, right, where it changes, like the brain waves change, and ultimately it's like a light switch and you start questioning things. That's why, kids that get a little older, they have a lot of questions about a lot of things, specifically holidays, if you know what I'm talking about, right? They have a lot of curious questions about how the world works and what's happening and why it's happening. And that's where their brain gets to decide if it's going to agree with everything it learned from birth to age 7, or if it's going to start challenging those things and looking for different examples of how the world works, and if it likes those different examples for how the world works. So maybe you were raised to believe a certain thing, right? Like I was raised to believe that money was evil. Money was the root of all evil. And people that had a lot of money were snobs and, they're not nice people. And they're the people who have a lot of money, they always just want more money, and they're not very giving, and there's not many nice ones. And, those things were filled in my subconscious. So the first 7 years of life, I didn't question it. That's what I believed. As I started getting older, I was looking for examples of people who had money that weren't mean, that weren't selfish, that modeled things and principles that I wanted to be able to have. And when I started seeing that not everybody in the world that had money was mean or evil or had an agenda, right? What it started to do for me was allow me to question what I was taught and decide if I wanted to adopt different thoughts. And that has served me really well in that regard, because now I am someone that can surpass where I would have originally been if I would have just taken those original thoughts from birth to age 7 as a fact. Okay, so all of that to say is that whether you believe you're worthy or not, you need to look at two different things. One, what does worthy mean to me? This is probably the number one question I ask clients. Okay, and more specifically, this comes up a lot when I am coaching my coaches' clients. Okay, I worked in one of her programs where people did written coaching, and a lot of times they would write in, like they would submit questions in coaching, and they would submit coaching on how they didn't feel worthy of being a coach. They didn't feel worthy of meeting their goals. They didn't feel worthy of asking or charging for their services. They didn't feel worthy of making the money, keeping the money. And a lot of times it always came up with money, right? They just didn't feel worthy. And the question that I would always ask them is, what is worthiness? And what's so crazy is a lot of people can't even answer that question when you first ask them. They literally don't even know. So they're walking around with this cloud over their head as if I'm not worthy. I have low self-esteem. I have low confidence. I don't believe in myself. I don't think I'm that great. I don't think I'm that pretty or that smart or that this or that, right? And they're walking around with this, what feels like a very heavy cloud of just, I'm never going to get out of this. I don't feel good about myself. I don't love myself. I don't like myself. I don't, enjoy being in my body. I don't like who I am. That's what comes up whenever we don't feel worthy. But what is worthiness? What makes someone worthy? And the crazy thing is when I have clients give me a list of what would make them worthy, a lot of times it's external things. They think money would make me worthy. More time would make me worthy, right? Having someone tell me this and this and that about myself would make me feel worthy. And it's very externally focused. So I just want you to check in with yourself on what you believe worthiness is. What makes someone worthy? When you're comparing yourself, that maybe you think is confident and has it all together and is living a life that you very much want to live, I want you to ask yourself, what makes them worthy of having all those things? Okay, what do you believe? Because again, I could line up 100 people and ask them, with whatever role model they're looking at in their life, I could say, well, what makes that other person worthy of the life that they're living? And I'd get 100 different answers. Because worthiness, your self-concept, right? Your self-worth, your self-regard is based on what you think about yourself, about what you think makes someone worthy or not worthy. And a lot of times, those stories that you're telling yourself are not even true. They feel true, right? We can have compassion for the fact that they really do feel true, but the reality is a lot of times they're not even true, okay? Because you're already worthy. You were born worthy. And I know that sounds cliche and you're probably rolling your eyes and you're like, yeah. Knock it off, right? Because when we're in pain, that's the last thing that we want to hear, right? When we don't feel confident, when we don't feel good about ourselves, when we're not happy, the last thing that we want to hear is, you were born worthy. But it is true. You don't have to do anything to be worthy. You don't need to make money. You don't need to have the fancy house or the fancy cars. You don't need anything external, right? You don't need whatever it is that your brain makes up. Because again, worthiness is so different for each individual person. For me, the reason I can come up with even money examples very quickly as one of the things that comes up when I think about this topic is because that for a long time was what I believed would make me worthy. I felt like I had to prove that, I felt like in order to be good enough or to be seen as good enough, I had to, make a lot of money. But it wasn't because, back before I had like a lot of awareness work, it wasn't for any reason other than I didn't feel good about myself when I didn't have a lot of money. Right? And it would come up and I would be triggered when I was around people with a lot of money because it felt like I'm not worthy of being here. Like the only way that I can be worthy of these friendships or being around these people or celebrating or eating this food on my plate or going to this event is if I had more money. Somehow in my brain, I believed that worthiness was wrapped up in the amount of money I made. Okay? And what was so crazy is that held me back in a lot of different ways. What it started to do, I even noticed this early on in my business, is it created this hustle kind of mentality in my brain where I felt like I had to hustle really, really hard. And I needed to make it, and I needed to make it really, really fast. Because if I didn't make it really, really fast, I wasn't worthy, right? I wasn't going to fit in. I wasn't going to feel like I was a part of the crowd. Everybody else is surpassing me. In order to feel worthy to be in the group, I have to hurry, 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 hurry. And you know what happens when that's your mentality and you're not sitting with your feelings and you're ignoring your work and you're not healing that stuff? You burn yourself out. Business people, I am talking to you. Wannabe business people, I am talking to you. And everyday people, in whatever way you think you need more in order to be worthy, I'm talking to you. If you do not feel worthy right now, you need to ask for coaching for whatever that is. If you are a client of mine, we need to figure out why you don't feel that way and what stories you're telling yourself and where that pattern is coming from and why you're believing those stories and continuing to stay in those patterns, okay? Because it's a very exhausting pattern to be stuck in. Okay, what is so crazy is when I let go of needing any of that and believing that I was already worthy and I didn't need to make any money to prove anything to anybody else and I was worthy of being in groups just because I'm me and not because of assets. You know what's so crazy? This year I've made more money than I've ever made in my entire life. Literally. And it's because I don't believe I need any of it to be worthy, okay? I don't need money to feel confident. I started to feel confident, and guess what happened? More money came. It's funny how life works in that way. So whatever you think you're needing to be more confident, I want you to really challenge yourself on that because that's usually what is wrapped up in our self-worth, self-concept, self-regard is it's whether or not we feel confident or not. And the work here is really being able to get into a place of confidence and feeling worthy without the changes that you think need to happen in order for you to get there. Okay? So if a lot of this stems even from your childhood, it's not your fault for what you experienced in childhood. I work with a lot of clients. I had a very traumatic childhood. A lot of my clients came from a very traumatic childhood. Some of you even had traumas later on as young adults and adults. Okay? And sometimes there are people in our life that are tornadoes, toxic tornadoes. And we don't always have the tools to know how to escape the tornado. And so we look around and we realize a lot of damage has been done by outside tornadoes. Maybe we allowed those tornadoes in our life before we knew better. Maybe we had no idea and we grew up in the tornadoes. Whatever happened with any tornadoes that have come into your life and flipped it upside down and have you questioning everything and feeling a lot of pain, a lot of that is not your fault. But here is what I'm going to tell you in the most loving, tough way possible. That although we cannot control everything that happens to us, okay, and everything that we experience, there comes a point where we have responsibility to change things and to fix it. And yes, it's probably the hardest work you'll ever do in your life. My clients and I joke, about how we wish there was a magic pill or a magic wand. And I'm sure that you all do too. If you've ever experienced a lot of pain and hardship and challenges and stress, of course we want it to go away quickly, right? A lot of times when I get on a consult with people, they want to do the shortest package possible because they think that's going to fix them the fastest. And I'm like, you know what? Here's the funny thing about life. However old you are, so whether you're 20 or 30, 40 or 50, okay, however old you are is how long you've accumulated and reinforced the thoughts that are either serving you or not serving you, okay? So you have to give yourself grace, love, and time to undo any thinking that you have held on to tightly for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 plus years, okay? It's not a snap of the fingers, okay? It isn't something that always is resolved quickly. Sure, you could snap your fingers and decide that you're going to think differently and do something differently. You can do that, but your brain is really going to fight you on it. So it takes time. Be gracious with yourself, okay? So again, it is not always our fault, the things that we've endured and the things that have happened to us. But as adults, especially when you're becoming more self-aware, you have a responsibility to change the trajectory of your life. Nobody is coming to rescue you, as sad as that sounds, okay? Everybody is focused on their own life. So if you're waiting for an apology, if you're waiting for other people to change, if you're waiting for validation, if you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And if you're miserable while you're waiting, why put yourself through that torture? Get clear on your thinking. Get clear on your thoughts. Get clear on your feelings and your emotions and what you're doing or not doing and the results you are or are not creating in your life. The past is gone, but the future is literally in your hands. What are you going to do with it? Okay? All right. I know that probably felt a little deep and a little heavy, but the self-worth conversation is a big one. Okay? A lot of times whenever I, administer the EQ assessment, again, emotional intelligence assessment. I do it with all of my clients. It's the first thing that we do together. We review it together. I even pull it out every now and then mid-coaching when my clients have been coaching with me for a while to see why they're doing the things that they're doing. It's such a great tool that helps us all understand what's going on in their life a little bit better. But when I do that, it's a lot of your emotional intelligence is even built around your self-regard, your self-concept, your self-worth, okay? Because it's all wrapped up in your confidence. So if you don't feel confident, if you're not thinking about things that make you confident, if you're not thinking about all the reasons to love yourself and, be proud of yourself, and you're really more focused on your limitations and what doesn't feel good about you, it impacts your overall emotional intelligence. If someone scores low in their self-regard on that assessment, they tend to score low in multiple categories, if not all of them, because it's the way that they think of themselves. It's such an important skill, and it is a skill of emotional intelligence. And that is what I help people do. Okay, so if you're really struggling with your self-worth, if you do not feel confident, if you are struggling with letting go of the past, if you know that your thinking is not serving you, if you are stuck in cycles or patterns that you're having trouble letting go of, if you resist all of your negative emotions and you don't even allow yourself to feel them or cry or, even let your body be with them, then maybe it's time, right, to do something different. And if you do feel compelled to do something different, go to MacyRenee.com. Step 1, get on my email list so you don't miss anything that is coming in 2023, because something really big is coming to help 15 people, okay? There's only going to be 15 spots. I do know that, but it's going to be big. And the second thing is sign up for a consult, because even if it's not the thing that is coming in 2023, there are ways that I can help you right now, okay? All right, I love you guys. I hope that you all have an amazing holiday, and I hope that you enjoy the episodes that will be coming soon while I will be celebrating Christmas with my family. I'll talk to you next week. Bye. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macy Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at macyrenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at macyrenee.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.